So, welcome, official welcome to the new course, Advice for Life. Um, as you see here on the screen, the Lubavitch Rebbe's guidance for leading a more purposeful.
Larry, how do I get rid of that? Got it.
Um, so, we'll start off with a story about a guy that goes to the doctor. He's got a terrible problem, big issues. Things are really not going well. The doctor says, "Listen, guy, listen, son. Let me tell you, you want to be healthy. You got to make some major changes in your life. Everything you do has got to change. All this that you're eating, got to change your whole diet. It's all bad. Your activities, your hobbies, no good. You know what? All of your friends that you're hanging out with, terrible group of people. Everything you do from morning to night that we went through together, you got to change it. And we're starting life all over." The guy says, "Thanks, doc. I appreciate it. Thanks for the advice." Doctor says, "Okay, here's the bill." Guy's like, $500? What's the $500 for? There were no exams or anything. The doctor says, "Well, it's for the advice." So the patient looks at the doctor and says, "Who's taking your advice?" So, so we're here for a class titled Advice for Life. There's going to be a lot of great ideas that we're going to share that we can all gain from, and take what you can. I would say take everything, right? But sometimes you're going to hear so many great ideas, and it's be like, whoa, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Well, that's also great, and it's going to be too much. So from every class, I would recommend at the end of the class, think about a few key takeaways. We'll give some suggestions and think about what works for you. Oh, you know what? I relate to this. I'm going to implement this in my life, or I'm just going to think about that. That's a good perspective to have, because we are going to cover a lot of grounds and a lot of ideas. But I have to say that from all the courses, all the JLI courses that we've had, and all the weekly classes, and all the different classes I've given, this one is truly unique and truly different, because many classes, they're philosophical, or they're Kabbalah, very spiritual. It's about Jewish law, about Jewish history, Jewish ethics, or the Torah reading. And this one is different, because this one is going to, it's right in the wheelhouse of life. It's going to give us the tools to live a more meaningful, a more productive, and a more happy life. We're going to be covering 6 major areas of life. And that the first one is going to be work and wealth. The second one is going to be family bliss, working on our relationships, working on the family unit. Health is a big one. We're going to see how patients, physicians, and professors can gain guidance on questions of health and treatment. We're going to talk about the emotional and spiritual well-being of a person, how that connects to the physical health of a person. We're going to talk about anxiety, emotional health, mental health. We're going to talk about above adversity, how to deal with challenges that come our way in life. And then finally, last week, we're going to talk about spiritual heights, giving us a unique approach to realizing our profound potential and attaining real spiritual growth with practical guidance. So there are some big topics coming our way, and hopefully we're going to address all of them and give lots of great advice and lots of great answers. But one of the things that's really unique and different about this course is that we're going to be drawing on the Rebbe's wisdom on how the Rebbe perceived and drew directives and Jewish perspectives and Jewish values from the Torah. And what's different about this is, normally we have a lot of texts, and you may notice from other courses, those that have come in the past, I'll skip like half the text. There's so much information, there's only so much we can cover. But this time around, we'll probably do most of the text, because there's actually going to be a lot of videos that are going to supplement everything that we're learning. And instead of me sharing with you or telling you, oh, the Rebbe said A, B, C, or D to this and that person, we're going to actually watch videos and hear directly from the Rebbe how he answered different people's questions that they posed to him. Or we're going to hear from those people what their perspective was, what their story was, and what their advice was. So it'll be the Rebbe talking to you, or the people that received their advice from the Rebbe talking directly to you. You may have seen this in one of the emails. The New York City did a study, the postal system did a study, and they said that the second to most mail that was received in the 80s by any single person, right? It was right after the president, was, you guessed it, was the Rebbe. The Rebbe, as was obviously a Jewish world leader, and he received, the mailman would come a few times a day to the headquarters of the Chabad movement with sacks and sacks of mail, and the Rebbe would personally answer each and every letter, and he would dictate answers to his secretaries, who would then type it up, and the Rebbe would read over those typed letters, and he would edit them, and he would give his final approval before they were mailed out. And this course is drawing on many of those letters, but also many interactions. People had opportunities to seek the Rebbe's advice in many different opportunities. Every Sunday, there would be thousands, almost, the Rebbe would stand for 5 or 6 hours when he was 90 years old, talking to people. Most of the time, it was a very quick encounter, just giving them a blessing. But at times, there were longer conversations. People turned to the Rebbe for advice. Earlier in the Rebbe's lifetime, 3 times a week, he would sit, starting from 8 p.m. at night, all the way until 5 or 6 in the morning, until the last person left, counseling people and giving them advice. And this course is pulling off from all of these hundreds of thousands of encounters and categorizing everything and giving us the opportunity to tap into the Rebbe's life, to the Rebbe's advice for life. So today's topic is meaning at work. Now, the vast majority of those that attend adult education classes, believe it or not, are those that are retired because we have more time on our hands. We're looking for more knowledge. We're excited to finally be at the stage where we're able to study, we're able to learn. And here we have our very first lesson is titled Meaning at Work. And there's something here for everyone to gain, from. But before we get into the details of let me preface with a couple of questions that we're going to be facing and addressing tonight. And those are as follows. Question number one for tonight. Would it be better to occupy ourselves with spiritual matters over a job career? For example, somebody makes it big in Bitcoin. They're 30 years old. Somehow, they bought when it was low. They made a lot of money. They say, actually, once the millennial goes to his boss, he says, I'm quitting because I did so well, Bitcoin. So the boss says, all right, what are you going to do now that you're quitting? He says, oh, I don't know. I'll scroll through Instagram, watch a couple of movies, browse the web. The boss is like, that's what you've been doing here at work anyways. So what if somebody has the means and the ability to retire at a very young age? There are all these guides out there telling you how you can retire at the young age of 30 years old or 35 years old. I recently saw an article of somebody which retired at 30 or 34 years old, something like that. And now, so sad, they have to go back to work because they need $250,000 a year to live, and they no longer have enough to live off of their retirement fund. I feel really bad. So there, what if you have the ability to not work? You're comfortable. You did well. Would it be a good idea to quit your job and to occupy yourself with spiritual matters over advancing your career? The second question for tonight is, what role does trust and faith in God play at work? Are they connected? Do we leave God in the synagogue and leave business for business? And our third question, welcome, Linda. Our third question that we're going to be addressing tonight is, how can I close my business on Shabbos if that is when I make most of my money? So we're going to split this up into a few different parts. But first, a quick bio about the Rebbe, whose picture we have here on the screen, who I'm sure those that have been around Chabad have heard about the Rebbe before. What is, why are we drawing on the Rebbe's wisdom and advice? What is so special and unique? So a quick 2-minute bio. There have been books written about the Rebbe, but I'm going to try to give, I'll do the Cliff Note version so we can get right into it. The Rebbe was born in 1902 in Ukraine. And we'll skip that whole bunch of years. We'll skip right to 1951. By 1951, he was the leader of the Chabad movement, which is headquartered in Crown Heights. If you ever say the word 770 to many, many Jews, and especially to anyone religious, not only Chabad, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. You don't have to say 770 Eastern Parkway. You just say 770. Oh, I was in 770. I visited 770. Everyone knows what 770 is, the Chabad headquarters. And in 1951, the Rebbe became the leader of the Chabad movement in a very small synagogue. You know how many people were able to comfortably fit in the room? 100 people. Okay, they were able to stuff in on benches or stand with bleachers, standing room only. You could get some extra people in there. It was a very small synagogue. It was right after the Holocaust, and people were still in mourning. It seemed like the Shiva of the Holocaust would never end. And the Chabad movement, which had been around for hundreds of years, so many had been lost, and now they're restarting and continuing to rebuild in the United States. And over the years, the Rebbe transformed Chabad from this very small movement into a global enterprise that literally transformed the world. Today, there's nowhere in the world that you'll go, there is no Chabad. They say that when NASA finally made it to the moon, they got out there, they had the video crew there, they had to edit some of the videos because they were so excited to put down the flag. And in the background, there was a big problem. There was a Chabad house there. So they say that literally this Chabad, wherever there's Coke, you can find Chabad. So in a few short decades, the Rebbe transformed the movement. And today there are over 5,000 Chabad houses around the world. Just in Illinois, there are over 50 Chabad centers, over 80 full-time couples dedicated to spreading Judaism, to teaching the young, teaching and building Jewish centers all over our state. Just a quick question. Has anyone been somewhere exotic where they've seen a Chabad? Linda, go ahead. You're on mute. No, you're still mute. You're still on mute. So click the microphone button. You see how there's like a red line over your microphone, so we can't hear you when it's like that. So if you hit the microphone button somewhere on your phone, you should hopefully be able to hear you. No, still not. Okay, we'll come back to you. Keep playing with the settings, Linda. We don't want to go the whole night without hearing you. Anyone else? Anyone ever been somewhere exotic or they've encountered Chabad? I've spent some time in Tallinn, Estonia. I was there for a Passover. I got to see Chabad over there. I was in Brazil. But literally, wherever you go around the world, you're going to, almost anywhere, you're going to encounter a Chabad house. And that was one aspect of the Rebbe's life, of building Jewish infrastructure around the world. But in addition to all this, the Rebbe was a tremendous scholar, and his published works total over 300 volumes, and many of them he developed monumental and mind-shifting ways of how to interpret different parts of the Torah, which has since been widely accepted in the Jewish intellectual world. So to sum it up, in two areas, the Rebbe was very special and unique, both in building in Jewish outreach, building Jewish infrastructure around the world, but also as a scholar. Many times we talk about the Rebbe's care and concern for Judaism and for the Jewish people. The Rebbe was a great leader, but many times we fail to recognize that the Rebbe was a literal genius, and heads of states, military, everyone came from around the world to seek the Rebbe's advice. But don't take my word for it. Let's get straight into our first video for tonight. And please, if there are any issues with the videos or any of the text throughout the night, just feel free to speak up and let us all know, so that you're probably not the only one. So hopefully everything works smoothly. But if anything doesn't, please feel free to speak up and let me know. So here we go. Let's go to our first.
It isn't only the Jewish community that values him, it's the worldwide community. And so many come here to receive his blessing.
Today, the Rebbe will be posthumously awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. A man who dedicated his life to helping others and to bringing people together. The Speaker of the House and I have many disagreements, but there's one thing, there is at least one thing on which we do agree. That is the awarding of this medal. This award, it brought Democrats and Republicans, liberals, conservatives, northerners and southerners, blacks, whites, and Hispanics. It brought us all together.
I remember the 70th birthday. People say that he was the new Bar Shem Tov. I rather compared him to the Maggid of Meserich. Although he never moved, he didn't travel. The Ber of Meserich was the one actually who built. The Rebbe was like the Maggid. He had vision and wisdom and knowledge and everything else, but in practical life, he was an architect. He knew whom to send where. I think the Shaliach himself didn't know why he was sent somewhere, but he knew. The Rebbe was an architect in this respect. He knew how to build.
And therefore, I have asked for the blessings of the Rabbi, of our great teacher. Rabbi Schneerson is a great man in Israel. All of us respect him. All of us accept his judgment. He is a great lover of the house of Israel. He has shown his deep sentiment and love for our children. His blessings are very important to me. I do hope they will strengthen me on that very important mission I am going to fulfill during the meetings with President Carter, the President of the United States.
A unique personality, no doubt, that serves
Of us shown that very
no doubt that serves as a leader for tremendous number of Jewish people, a person that on one hand lives in the world of the Torah, but has got practical sense to the realities of the life everywhere in the world, and great sensitivity for the preserving of the Jewish people.
So here we have it, snippets of individuals from around the world, world leaders that sought out the Rebbe's advice. But the truth is that most people that asked the Rebbe for his advice were regular day-to-day people. There were medical issues that people were facing, financial issues, business advice. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to turn to page number 4 in our handout, exercise 1.1. And here we have the question on the board in your handout. If you don't have the textbook and the email, there's a link that you can hopefully see on the other, split your screen in half. And our question is, what is the Jewish view on work and career, work, career, and wealth? So option A, it is a necessary evil. A lot of people have this perspective. Work, money, and career, it's a necessary evil that provides us the means of serving God. So really, we just want to pray and have spiritual experiences, study the Torah, do mitzvos, be kind, be charitable to others, and work is a necessary evil to be able to do that. It's something that it's a burden, and we just do it because we have to. B, it is a part and parcel of our spiritual mission and journey. Or C, it is neither intrinsically positive nor negative, so long as we are honest in the business, do not allow our work or career to consume our lives to the exclusion of our spiritual life, then it can all be good or other. So you can go ahead and circle any of them. It's not a quiz. If you want to share what you've circled, you just go ahead and call out A, B, or C.
I think C for me, at least.
C for you, okay, great. Linda, I wish we could hear you. I'm going to hold on. Don't click anything. Do you see a box that pops up in your screen. I just sent you like a message to unmute. I don't know if you saw anything. I don't know if you're on your iPhone. There should be a microphone button. If you're able to maybe try logging in from a computer, hopefully we'll be able to hear you for us tonight, but we can't hear you, unfortunately. Okay, so that's question number one. Question number two is, in your estimation, what is the Jewish religious view on affluence, being very wealthy, acquiring wealth? Is it A, encouraged, B, discouraged, or C, it depends on whatever? Right, so go ahead and fill it out. Again, feel free to speak up, share what your thoughts are. You can put it in the chat. So it's a little complicated. What is the Torah? What is Judaism's perspective on wealth? Is actually a little bit complicated, because as we'll see in text 1a on page number 5, we have a quote from Deuteronomy where Moses is talking to the Jewish people, and he's essentially giving a prophecy. And he says, Jeshurun, referring to Israel, grew fat and kicked, meaning that they rebelled. You grew fat, thick, and rotund. Israel forsook the God who made them and spurned the rock of their salvation. You became wealthy, you became successful, and you forgot about spirituality, you forgot about God. You know the famous story of the guy that's looking for a parking spot in Manhattan. His fancy lawyer has this important meeting. He has to get to at 3 p.m. and he's circling around the blocks, can't find parking anywhere. And he says, God, I promise if you find me a parking spot, I'm going to give $1 million to the JUF. God, no parking spot. I promise you give me a parking spot, I'm going to keep kosher. God, if you give me a parking spot, I'll keep Shabbos. And he's like, all right, God, if you give me a parking spot, I'll send my kids to Jewish day school. And boom, somebody pulls out. He's got a perfect spot. Says, God, never mind, I found one already. As soon as we become comfortable with everything that we have in our lives, Moshe is telling the Jewish people, this is what's going to happen. You're going to forget about God. You're going to forget about spirituality. And it seems from here that affluence is a negative. Let's look in text 1b. A poor person speaks with supplications. A rich person speaks with impudence. He has chutzpah. A rich person, look at the terrible character traits that person has. And therefore, historically, Jews were very wary of material success. And we kind of, just did what we had to survive and to get by, and we never focused on being wealthy. However, the Rebbe embraced the quote-unquote challenge of wealth. The Rebbe said we have to change our perspective and our vision of wealth and seeing it as a divine blessing. And as a matter of fact, the Rebbe had I wouldn't say like an argument, like a real argument, but a discussion, a debate with another great leader. In the 1950s, the Rebbe paid a visit to a leader who's called the Kapishnitzer Rebbe, or Rabbi Avraham Yeshua Heschel, and he was sitting Shiva, he was mourning the passing, I believe, of his mother, and we have a transcript of their conversation in text number 2 on page number 6. So let's take a look at how this conversation went. So the Rebbe said as follows: Jewish individuals need to secure financial security. And that is an important, positive, and appropriate goal in and of itself, regardless of the additional imperative to fund Torah institutions in specific locations. Meaning, aside from the fact that we need philanthropists and major donors, we also need that Jewish people themselves should have wealth. And the Rebbe continues to tell his contemporary, the Kapishnitzer Rebbe, that financial success enables Jews to live comfortably and expansively. And that will also enable them to broaden their perspectives. For our sages taught that a beautiful home expands one's mind. And they meant that in the most literal sense. And if only all Jewish people would be wealthy. That was the Rebbe's wish. So what do you think the Kapishnitzer Rebbe responded? He should have said, Amen, right? Beautiful wish, everyone should be wealthy. He didn't say that. He said, wealth is a challenge, and I fear the test that it poses. And that was the mainstream view for many, many generations. And the Rebbe's response was that poverty is equally a challenge. If there must be a challenge, the test of wealth is preferable over that of poverty. God will certainly help us successfully withstand the challenge. So the the Rebbe had a very forward thinking. He had a very forward way of thought, and he was making 2 points in this exchange. That number one, Jewish people need to be wealthy because we need to support Torah institutions. We need to support the synagogues and all the yeshivas, all the Jewish day schools and the Jewish institutions. And number two, it's not just for that. We need to live comfortably. We shouldn't be chasing after the dollar. We shouldn't be far-fetched, not having enough money to pay the bills and to buy food. And like we were for many, many generations. Historically, Jews did not run after money. The Rebbe was saying we need to have wealth so we won't have to be oppressed or run after money. And that was something which the Rebbe encouraged, not just in that conversation, but in a very interesting gathering that took place in 1955. The holiday is Purim, and on Purim, you may be familiar. The custom is we say a l'chaim, and you have another l'chaim. You have one shot of alcohol, and it's a mitzvah to have. Purim is all about things being upside down, things being not in the natural course and way of things. And it was a very live. We have a recording of this event actually. It was a very lively atmosphere in the room. And the Rebbe said, I have a question. Whoever wants to be wealthy, raise your right hand. And let's take a look at what took place, what transpired after that happened.
We'll start with Purim 1955, when the Rebbe spoke about the test of wealth, and then made an incredible offer.
Der Nisoyen von Aschiris ist ein sehr schwerer Nisoyen, von deswegen Alvaya alle Juden gesagt geworden, sollen alle werden gewinnen. In Amerika ist minig, jede Sache stellt nach Wut als Abstimmung. Ich liebe seine Maske, man nehmen als Jürde, aber der Rebester soll sie geben, Aschiris der Floge. Und sie hat nicht der Haravani, was sie und der darf willkommen haben. Mit dem Jeser Horror soll sie nicht Machschel sein, soll nur heben die rechte Hand, der Leber Scholle.
We were sitting by a Farbrengen, and the Rebbe said that anyone who wants to become wealthy, raise your hands. Now, who has the audacity that I should ask the Rebbe about Gashmias? The Rebbe is for Ruchnistik, so most of the people wouldn't have the audacity to raise their hand.
Reb
Shmuel Isaac Popak was said to have raised his hand, a fact that he would never confirm or deny, although he always told the story.
6 or 7 people raised their hands, and they all became millionaires. Subsequently, I asked the Rebbe for a broche. I had no parnosa at all, and the Rebbe told me I should go into real estate, which I did. And I told the Rebbe I had no money. The Rebbe says, you don't need money to go into real estate. So through a certain maneuvering, we were able to buy 2 houses without any cash. That started us off in the real estate business, and thank God we make a living.
That was Rabbi Shmuel Isaac Popak. He became a mega millionaire, very, very wealthy after that gathering over time. A very big philanthropist as well. His name appears on many Jewish institutions. And this again is the Rebbe's view and perspective, which he was shifting and changing from his predecessors, that it's important that Jewish people should be wealthy and we shouldn't run away from that. But in order to understand why and where this perspective comes from, let's take a look at what is work all about. Many people, not all, many people look at work as negative. You may have voted for that option, a necessary evil, or something which is negative. we can't wait till we retire. We're planning for that day and when we could finally be done with this burden, get done with this. So either it's a necessary evil to provide for the family, or it's a burden, something we need to do. Not everyone, but some people have that perspective. And that perspective influences our attitude to work, and it even influences our attitude towards retirement. Somebody that loves what they do may not retire, and they may keep working, they may keep going. And obviously, we'll talk about retirement a little bit later. But the Rebbe's perspective on work, which obviously he drew from the Torah, from Judaism's perspective, was that work is holy. And there are three reasons for that. So one, the first reason is that work is an area of life where the purpose of life plays out. What is the purpose of life? Why did God create this world? Why did God, right? We spoke about this a little bit in the Kabbalah class. Why are we here? Because God desires that here in this physical world, we should transform this world and this physical material world and make it into a godly place, make it into a holy and spiritual place, a world of goodness, of kindness, of peace, a world where God's presence is felt and is sensed. That's our job, and that is our mission here in this world. And work is the arena where the purpose of life plays out. No matter what you do, no matter what your job is, if you work honestly, if you're a mensch, and you pay back your loans, and you're just a good person, that transforms the boardroom, it transforms the world of commerce, or whatever job a person may have, into a holy place. A shul, a synagogue, is automatically holy. It has a holy item in there, it has the Torah scroll, and it has the prayer books, and of course the mezuzah, which every room has. A shul, a synagogue, has a certain level of holiness. That's automatic. But our job is to transform the entire world into a holy place. And the way we do that is through work. So let's take a look at text number 3 on page number 8. So here we go. The Torah's perspective on Jewish life is puzzling. It informs us that God chose us from the rest of humanity in spirituality and spiritually elevated us from regular people. And that creates the impression we must spend the majority of our time in sacred pursuits, studying Torah, performing mitzvos, and worshiping in the tabernacle, and later in the Jerusalem temple. So why then does the Torah itself establish that the majority of a Jewish individual's life is to be devoted to material pursuits in which there is no distinction between a Jew and anyone else? If you were the chosen people at Mount Sinai, you would think, hold on, let's stay here in the desert. Let's not enter Israel where we're going to have to be farmers. And that's what the Jewish people at the time did. They said, we don't want to go into Israel. Once we go there, we know we have to go to work. We're going to have to be farmers. The heavenly manna, which was the miraculous food that fell from the heavens, would no longer be here. The well of Miriam is going to dry up. We want to stay in the desert. We don't want to enter the land of Israel. And Hashem said, no, you missed the point. Your job is not to live in a spiritual bliss. Your job is to go and transform this world into a holy place. And therefore, you're going to enter the land of Israel. 6 days you shall work, and on the 7th day you shall rest. Only 1 out of the 7 days is totally dedicated to spirituality. I'm going to summarize the rest of text 3. And the idea is that in order to bring holiness, once again, and godliness into the world, it's through going to work 6 days a week. If God would have desired that we should spend the majority of our time in spiritual bliss, then he would have created the world in a way where we don't need to work. But God created the world in this way because he feels that it's important that we work, and there's meaning and purpose in doing so. So there are 3 areas where we're going to say that work isn't negative or necessary evil or a burden, but it's actually an important from the Jewish perspective. So number 1 is it brings holiness and Torah values into the workplace, and that's the ultimate purpose. That is the ultimate purpose of the creation of the world. The second reason why Judaism's perspective is that work is not just something you have to do, but it's something which is purposeful and meaningful. no matter what your job is. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a big company or if you're in a store greeting people and making sure that they have a great day, or if you're in security or anything in between. The second reason why work is holy and important from a Jewish perspective is that that's the area where we have the ability to make a difference. Everyone has their sphere of influence. Everyone has their circle who they interact with. And when we enter the workplace today, this may not be as applicable with Zoom and working from home, but nonetheless, we interact with people virtually, and most people end up going to the office once in a while, and we're able to make a difference through the workplace because it gives us a unique opportunity to have a positive influence on others. And here we're going to have a video where the Rebbe advises two different businessmen of how they should look at their jobs, how they should look at their work, and what they're doing when they're working. Their work is not just to make money, but it's there to make a difference for others. So let's take a look.
I just started a new job in IBM, and Hey Tavis comes along, and the Rebbe says on that day that everybody should be like a shliach. I didn't know what did the Rebbe mean, everybody should be a shliach. Maybe he means that I gotta quit my job and like stop becoming a campus shliach or something like that. I wrote into the Rebbe, should I give up my job for IBM? What is it that the Rebbe wants? And the Rebbe like underlines it on the answer, and with a big, just one word answer, Lama. Why do you have to give up your job in IBM? I want you to stay in those things and be my shliach.
Madische mitzad de Geber kimono, als wo kommt und was einmal mit dem Masse kommt, soll dorten Schmäh von dem Mäbischten, soll dorten machen, dass in der Leben also seinlich Schake, bis wir Schachanti beseichern, ordentlich, in seine eigene Dalle Dame ist und danach gleich, al besser, besser mit Bachut.
And that was what I ended up doing. I stayed in IBM. I had a very, very matzliachtik career.
So if you would give a warm round of applause for Mr. Moshe Rappaport from IBM.
But I felt all the time that I was doing shlichus. In other words, I would make speeches all over the world. Your desktop or on your wall, or you're going to be wearing and so on, that are AI driven. But the real, all through my career, I would write to the Rebbe what was going on, what I was doing. To be secure. How are we going to manage the access control? Top people, CEOs, politicians, famous journalists from all over the world came to find out what IBM was doing in research. And I get to meet all these people with my yarmulke, with my beard, and so on and so forth. The Jewish people came over to me, and I was actually a shliach in that sense.
You certainly know that now Hong Kong is a visiting place for many Jews from several countries. And then you can influence the during their visit in Hong Kong, when they are returning to their homes, they will bring with them additional Yerushalayim. And that will be your business also.
אני במקצועי נייבל ארכיטקט, יש לי מפעל בארץ גדול, ובזכות ברכתו מלפני שנתיים במכתב שכבודו כתב לי, שקיבלתי ממנו, קיבלנו עבודה גדולה מאוד, $2 מיליון, בצבא ארצות הברית, חודש אחרי המכתב. חודש אחרי קבלת המכתב קיבלנו את העבודה הכי גדולה בחיינו מהצבא האמריקאי.
ואיזו התחלה גדולה, ועד יש בכך יכול לעשות כפליים.
אני מקווה, אני משתדל. והרבה עובדים שלי שלא היו יראי שמיים, כשזה קרה, חזרו בתשובה. וזה הודות לכבוד הרב.
עדיין עליך להוסיף עוד יותר בירושלים שלו, כאילו שלבחור ירו ויעשו קרליך על כל פנים החצי ממך.
major exhibition that we exhibited at was in Brussels. Was a major upholstery fabric international exhibition. Part of our display was knowing that if a Jew came in there, he knew he would get caught and me asking him if he could put on film. The exhibition is going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Rosh Hashanah was coming up Monday night. To come in for one half a day on Monday exhibition, it's a little bit crazy. On the other hand, I knew the Rebbe wanted we should always be at the exhibition, so we're going. Rabbi Chadakov let me know that the Rebbe suggested that we put up a sign at the beginning of the show that due to the Sabbath, we're going to be closed at Friday 2:30. So the customers, they'll know in the beginning of the show they should come into you right away. At about 1:30, suddenly I see a gentleman walking up and down past our stand where there's thousands of people walking. But I see he keeps looking at the sign and he's asking, tell me, what is this closing the Sabbath? It's an international exhibition. What's this closing Rosh Hashanah? I said, where are you from, sir? He says, Ich bin a Polish. So I started dealing with a Jew. I said, how about putting on film? He looks at me like I went crazy. He said, film? Who believes in all of this? I don't believe in God. I don't believe in anything. He says, Ich bin durchgegangen Hitler. I went through Hitler. I never put on film, he says. And I said, my friend, I understand you 100%. Once in your lifetime, you didn't have a bar mitzvah, you said. You'll be able to say, you're right, God wasn't right to you, and you had a bar mitzvah. He took off his jacket, and we put him on film. The minute he said Shema Yisrael, he broke down and started crying. He says, Ich kenn nicht. He was holding us out, Ich kenn nicht. And he sat down, and he didn't know what to do, how to thank us. You can imagine how we felt. Business, we didn't do that much, but we knew what we came for, and we knew we were going to have a good year.
Wow. So I think we have a lot of information, that we're piling on. A lot of great stories. This last story of Mr. Zeiler, I think, is fascinating. If you caught it, he kind of said it quickly at the beginning, that the Rebbe encouraged him to always go to these exhibitions, and that's why he flew into New York to be at this international exhibition. Rosh Hashanah was on Tuesday and Wednesday. He was only there for half a day of profit. He didn't make much money, if any, but he knew why he was there, because being in the workplace isn't only about doing business, but it's also an opportunity to inspire others and to be better people, to inspire others to be better people and to be better Jews. And look at that beautiful story. He gave this survivor the opportunity to have a bar mitzvah right then and there. This is just, that was just one of the stories, but it's bringing out this idea that the workplace is not a negative, it's not a burden, but it's actually holy. It's a great thing to do, because that affords us the opportunity to connect with others and to have a great impact on others. I actually saw, it's not part of this course, but I saw an interaction that the Rebbe had with a businessman. A businessman came, and there's a video of this, which I didn't manage to put into the slideshow. The businessman comes to the Rebbe and he literally says, Rebbe, I'm very comfortable. I have enough money to retire, to live comfortably. I have enough funds to give to charity. And my new plan is that every day I want to study Torah for 2 hours, and I want to volunteer at the Chabad for 2 hours a day, and I want to leave my business. And he asked for a blessing. So the Rebbe said, you should be very successful in all of the above and in your business. I'm paraphrasing, these aren't the exact words, right? The Rebbe said, you shouldn't close the business, you should continue the business. And the Rebbe said, you think it's interesting that I'm telling you that, but the Rebbe said that you'll be a businessman, a successful businessman that people will look up to, that you happily have set times to study Torah, and you'll be a good example for others as a businessman. Here he was successful, he could have retired. The Rebbe said, keep on going, because there's a mission, there's something good that you can accomplish in the workplace. So that was the Rebbe's vision of what work was all about. work again isn't just something that we have to do, but it's a great thing because it gives us a great opportunity. Number one, when we do a mitzvah in the workplace, when we deal honestly, following the laws of the Torah, or making this world a holy place. And number two, it's an opportunity to connect with others and to help others. And the third reason as to why the Rebbe viewed work as a good thing is because it affords us the opportunity to give tzedakah. Now, what is tzedakah? What does it mean to give charity? So let's take a look at text 5, and I think this text is going to really change. It blew my mind away because I for many years always thought as tzedakah, it's something you do. You thank God. All right, Hashem bless me. I'll do my part to say thank you. I'll give 10% to charity. I'll do my part to make the world a better place. But here, there's something actually much deeper that happens when a person gives tzedakah. Let's take a look at text number 5. Do you have a volunteer? Anyone wants to read on page number 12? Julie, go ahead. But you're on mute, so you have to unmute your microphone. Take it away.
Who is like your people Israel, one unique nation on earth? The implication is that even while they engage in mundane matters on earth, they do not separate themselves from the true one. It is therefore appropriate that we do not perform all of our mundane engagements for material ends, but rather in order to bring sustenance to other souls, peace of godliness, and supply them with that which they lack out of gratuitous kindness toward them. In doing so, we resemble our Creator, the One, God, for God performs free kindnesses at all times, and his kindness is true, not for recompense, in that he animates the universe and all its contents every single moment. What is recompense?
Oh, I already went ahead. Sorry, I started reading ahead to the next paragraph. So his kindness is true. He's not doing kindness to be compensated to receive any favors in return, but God's kindness is true because and why is that so? Because he's giving, without asking, not for return. So thank you, Julie, for text number 5. So what's the message over here? This is actually a quote from the first Chabad Rebbe. He writes it in the foundational book called the Tanya. It's actually the Rebbe's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. It's authored about 250 years ago. And here he's teaching us the cornerstone of Judaism's philosophy and outlook, that spiritual and mundane identities are intertwined. We're not any more Jewish in the synagogue than we are in the workplace. Because when we give tzedakah, when we give charity, we are coming one with Hashem in that we're resembling God. How do we resemble? When we're takers, we're on the receiving end, we're not resembling God. When we're givers, then we're resembling exactly what God does. Hashem, God, gives the sustenance to the entire world. And when we give, we are doing the same thing. So giving tzedakah, going to work, affords us the opportunity to do our job, which is to be a giver. So the third reason why work has holiness in it is because it affords us the opportunity to be a giver, to be like God, and to be on the giving end. Any questions, comments? There was once a turkey farmer in Israel, and this story goes back to 1959. And you think that people turn to the Rebbe with questions only in like Torah learning. People turn to the Rebbe with questions in all areas of life. And he turned to the Rebbe with the question, I have an opportunity to expand my farm. Should I do it, or should I just be happy with what I have? What do you think the Rebbe's answer was? So it's in text number 6. So I'm going to summarize it on page number 13. You can read the entire text your own after the class. And the Rebbe's response was that, of course, you should expand. Why? Because then you'll be able to be more charitable. You have enough for yourself. Okay, good. You have an opportunity to expand your farm. Look at this. You'll be able to do so much more. You'll be able to emulate our Creator by becoming a giver. So instead of minimizing our business and having more time for spiritual pursuits and for Torah study, expanding your business is a spiritual pursuit. So in a similar vein, anyone here ever heard of Tofutti? Anyone ever buy Tofutti cream cheese? Non-dairy, it's a non-dairy product. So there was Mr. David Mintz is the founder and the owner of Tofutti. And let's take a look at his interaction with the Rebbe, where he turned to the Rebbe with a business question about his business.
So sein, mal in Weltstoff, Großheiten haben wir Woche, wir so viel in der Wohnung, also so Flecken. Ja, also von euch Seite, sie drücken wir. Wir haben einen also so verkaufen. Was verkaufen die Retail Stores? Nein, die ganze Geschäft, ja. Was ist erst, der Umstände sind nicht so geht. Sagt, sie sagen, die Company, die Menschen, wo ich sage, es kann wachsen, ob andere Menschen kommen rein mit der Sache, ihr Geld. War da eine gute Sache, war das vielleicht eine andere? Nein, nicht, aber so wirst du Rebbe jetzt, also... Nein, mit das haben sie recht, ihr kommt selbst ein Artikel verkaufen, aber eben mit dem Geld, was sie da kommen, wird sie das investen in ein Geschäft. Aber mit Waffen sein weiter aktiv mit Lebensmitteln, so dem Massage-Leute, die Besitzer hat hier gegeben, also die Leute haben die Menschen schwierig aneinander. So, der Rebbe halt also verhalten in der Arbeit nach dem... Ja, aber die Fähigkeit muss als Mamsche sein. Sie will Papier verkaufen, macht mit Tees, aber mit Atmaya, sie soll tegen die Dossen zu bleiben bei so das Verstarten und Verbrechen.
So the company Tofutti, as Harry knows, is still around. He was going through some tough times. They wanted him to sell the company. They ever said, "You're doing great stuff. Why would you sell your company? Don't give over your company to others." Get a couple of investors, sell some, a portion of it to invest in the company, grow the company, expand the company, but don't give up. Keep growing and keep expanding. So all of this leads us right into our next topic. We have three great reasons as to why work is holy, why it's spiritual. A person shouldn't feel down or sad that they spend a large portion of their life or of their week, in the business world, because that's a very important part of a person's spiritual journey, is living in the business world. And we're going to talk about how to bring holiness into the business, at the end of the class. But before we get there, this leads straight into the Rebbe's perspective on retirement. So let's take a look at page number 15. We have a quick exercise over there. And our question is, what do you consider the optimal age of, let me go back here. What do you consider the optimal age of retirement? 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, post 70. And again, feel free to shout out your answers and to share. The average age of retirement in the US as of 2021 was 65 years of age for men and 62 for women. And many people spend their life building up to retirement. And by the way, from a Jewish perspective, at first glance, a person would think retirement is the best thing. It gives you extra time to come to Torah classes. If you're busy working, who has time to go study Torah? Who has time to come to great JLI courses or to lunch and learns or to Shabbos services? You're busy making a living. It's so difficult. So retirement is great. It gives you an opportunity to spend time on the spiritual. But based on everything we learned, you won't be surprised to learn that anytime somebody asks the Rebbe, should I retire? Is always the same answer. No, don't retire. Now, you may be thinking, hold on a second. When a person reaches a certain age, maybe they're burnt out. They've been doing something their whole life, for many, many years. it was a difficult journey. They need to do something new. Or physically, it's taxing and it's difficult. You want to spend more time with your family. You want to have a change in career. That's okay. We're not saying that a person has to keep the same job, for their entire life. But the Rebbe's perspective is going to see on retirement was that it's important to be in the workforce. It's important because of these three reasons still up on our screen. It's important to be active in making this world a better place. And therefore, so it doesn't matter if someone says, "Oh, I reached a certain age, I'm going to take a different job, and maybe I'll cut down on my hours, but I'm going to have a different, but I'm going to do something that I really enjoy more. I'll be able to spend more time with the family." We're not talking about it. We're talking about someone, like we said before, they're 30 years old or any age. They say, "Now I'm going to scroll through Instagram, watch some movies, and sit with my feet up for the rest of my life." But let's take a look. Let's hear it directly from the Rebbe. We're going to see a video where I believe we have two people or actually three different people that asked the Rebbe for advice regarding retirement. Some of them very wealthy and famous people. And let's see what the Rebbe tells them. Oops.
Ich bin gerade so beten für gesunde Nachfrage. Ja, somit wenn die gesund haben, gesunde Kinder und haben gesunde Psyche, so haben wir doch schon besser. Ja, aber deswegen die Time. Mir war es dann Since what we do to time, this you can be up to my work. The retirement is always good for old people, or young person. But 220, how much money you need? 220, you have 45 years. To be good, the first thing for you and Geschäften, that you can certainly continue it, not have to think even about retiring. You must gain much more money to give much more tzedakah, and to do so in good mood and good health together with your family.
And things are moving along well, and I'm not going to retire.
Yeah, thank you. Forget about it.
So we see here very clearly the Rebbe was very adamant and passionate. The Rebbe didn't even like the word to retire. And let me move the slide. Let's move the slide over here. As we saw very passionately, the second person in the video told the Rebbe, "How can I retire? I'm older." And the Rebbe said, "You're only 75 years old. You have 45 more years to go till you reach 120. You're young, and we see again and again, the Rebbe did not like that word. Forget about retirement. It's disturbing me. It's disturbing you. The last person, the third video that we saw was Mr. Ron Perlman. And standing next to him was his rabbi, Rabbi Avraham Shem Tov. Ron Perlman is I don't know if he's the founder or is the owner of Revlon. He's had his ups and downs in life, but trust me, he has food for Shabbos. He can feed his family. He's doing all right. The Rebbe actually once told him, as a side note, that he was very close with the Rebbe. Until this day, he studies every single day with his rabbi, Rabbi Shem Tov. And I know that because when I studied in Brazil, we brought down his rabbi as a guest speaker for a big function. And Rabbi Shem Tov said he just needs to have a line that can call America, because every day he studies I forgot for how long, maybe an hour. He has a study session with Mr. Ron Perlman. He's a big person in the business world, and every single day he studies with his rabbi, he studies Torah. And I don't think they're fooling around and just schmoozing, they're really studying, and they're not wasting time over there. And the Rebbe once told him that on Shabbos you should make sure to daven with the minyan in the synagogue. Well, he has a yacht, and yachts are not cheap. He put a lot of money into his yacht, and he wants to go on vacation in December and spend time out in the ocean in whichever island he may have decided to go to. And now he has to have a minyan to daven with. So you know what he does? He flies down 9 yeshiva students, and he pays for their flights. He gives them a villa, and he puts them up for Shabbos, and he has his minyan, he has his Shabbos service. He actually does this. He lives in the Hamptons now, and he keeps Shabbos. And it's a very far walk for him to go to the Chabad. He's very close with the Chabad rabbi there, but it's a far walk. And also, he's a big person. He doesn't want to daven in a public shul where anyone can access him. He wants to, keep his private life, his personal life more private. So he does this many times. He'll bring down a group of yeshiva students, 9 yeshiva students, to live in his guest house. He'll spend some time with them, have a little kiddush, and they'll do the whole prayer service and the Torah reading, and then they'll go back to their guest house, and he'll do his thing, on Shabbos, because he has the means to do so, and that's the lifestyle. If you own Revlon, you'll be all right. But the Rebbe told him, keep working, don't retire, because work has meaning and purpose. So if one looks at work, the why affects the how. If one looks at being in the workforce, at building a career, as something as being holy, something which can help you connect with others, and a way to be able to give tzedakah, then the how you work is going to be changed radically. So how do we bring? So we covered 2 big ideas so far, right? We spoke about why, and we spoke about why the workforce is holy and important, and everything you're doing there is good. And we also spoke about retirement. And now, how do we bring spirituality into the workforce, into our day-to-day lives, material success? And when I say the word workforce, you can stretch that to whatever good projects you might be involved with, whatever volunteer work, whatever you may be doing to help others. You can kind of borrow that term, if you will. How do we bring spirituality into the day-to-day grind? Whatever it is you may be doing on a daily basis doesn't seem to be very spiritual. So there are 4 components and different areas that the Rebbe advised people to implement either in their way of thinking or into their behavior in order to bring spirituality into the workforce. So if we turn to text number 7 on page number 16, you're going to see a transcript of a letter. It's actually, the Rebbe wrote this letter in English. Many of the Rebbe's letters were written in Hebrew or sometimes Yiddish and translated into English. This is actually word for word the Rebbe's letter. And many times people wrote to the Rebbe with questions about anxiety, fear. There's a lot of unknowns in the business world. They have this deal, they have that deal, that's coming up. They're going through hard times. And there were a lot of mental health challenges that people turned to the Rebbe with. Actually, Rabbi Shapiro, the former chief rabbi of Israel, he was the chief rabbi in the 80s. So he once recounted that when he was in yeshiva, starting to become a rabbi, he knew what he had to study. There was a certain book that you have to study if you attested on it. And then there's a higher level of a rabbi, you become part of a Jewish court. He knew exactly what he had to study. And then he became the chief rabbi of Israel. And he didn't know, what book should I study now? And you know what he decided? He said this publicly. He said he decided he's going to study the Rebbe's correspondence and the Rebbe's advice to individuals, because there are over 30 printed volumes of the Rebbe's correspondence with people filled with advice. He said the answer to all the everyday questions I'm now going to get are in those books. So here is one of these letters. The Rebbe responds to somebody which wrote, they're having rough times at work, they have some anxiety. How do I deal with it? Let's take a look at page. Any other volunteers for text number 7? So the Rebbe writes as follows: I received your letter in which you write about your anxiety in regard to the question of parnasso, which is Hebrew for livelihood. You surely know how often our sages have impressed on us the importance of trust and confidence in God, in order that we realize that all difficulties encountered in life are only trials and tests of a passing nature. To be sure, the question of parnasso, or livelihood, is one of the most difficult tests. Nevertheless, God does not subject one to a greater test than he can withstand. As a rabbi expressed it, according to the camel, so is its load. The very trust in God is a vessel and channel to receive God's blessings, apart from the fact that such confidence is good for one's health and disposition. Therefore, it's also a natural means to the desired end. So the Rebbe believes that you have to, if you have trust and faith in Hashem, that's going to cause tremendous blessings. Because number one, whatever this person was going through was a hard test. They're going through difficult times. But if you understand that everything comes from God, everything comes from above, and you're just doing your part to bring Hashem's blessings into your life by going to work and doing whatever deal it is you're trying to do, if you understand that really it all comes from Hashem, you have that trust and faith, and there's nothing to be worried about. And by the way, point number two, if you have that faith and trust in God, then you know what? You're going to be confident, and you're going to come across as confident, and you'll get that job that you went to interview for, or that deal that you're trying to close is actually going to close. So that is one way of bringing spirituality into the material world, by having faith and trust in God. So now, if you have faith and trust in God, you understand that everything is a blessing from above, and everything that you're doing is just to bring about that blessing. Then what's going to happen is you're not going to have this tremendous test and difficult decision of closing for Shabbos. What if you're in the retail industry and all of your business is on Shabbos? What are you to do? Well, I have no choice. How am I going to live? I need to be open on Shabbos. But if we understand that, and we have trust and faith in God, then that will empower us to be able to go through this very difficult task of closing our businesses and our stores for Shabbos. Because if everything truly comes from above and we're truly bringing spirituality into the workforce, then we have to do the 6 days you shall work and the 7th you shall rest. So let's take a look at a very powerful letter on text number 8, an English letter that the Rebbe wrote to an individual, which obviously had their questions. Let's take a look. It is clear to the unbiased mind, and even to plain common sense, that the Almighty, who is the giver of the Torah and mitzvos, is also the creator and master of the world, whose benevolent providence extends to everyone individually. Back when the Rebbe penned this letter, I think the population was at around 3 billion people. Now we're close to 8 billion people. So Rebbe continues, it is also equally obvious that no standing good can come from breaking God's laws, especially such a fundamental law as Shabbat observance. For the important thing is not how much money a person earns, but he should be able to spend it in good health and on happy things, which is entirely in the hands of God. So in view of the above, it is quite clear what your attitude of the businessman in question should be, even if there were no other immediate business propositions. For it is necessary without delay to give up the kind of business that interferes with Shabbat observance, with the full confidence that he who feeds and sustains 3 billion people and all living things will also be able to take care of the individual and his family, provided with a source of livelihood which should not be in conflict with the will of God. So meaning to say that in addition to observing Shabbos, bringing additional blessings within the business, it also brings God's blessings outside of work, making the revenue more valuable, meaning that if someone practices this faith and trust that they have, and they actually do this very difficult step for many of closing on Shabbos, closing their business, or their workplace, or their store on Shabbos, then they may see a little bit of a difference in the bottom line, but ultimately we know everything's a blessing from
Throwing it out.
and the and the money that we spend is not going to have to be spent on a mechanic or, God forbid, on doctor's bills, but they'll be able to be spent on good and happy things. So let's take a look. Let's hear it from the Rebbe, how he advises different people about their business, holding their business for Shabbos.
I started a store, clothing store in downtown Los Angeles, 3,000 square feet store. I really seriously was saying myself, like, I want to close the store on Shabbos. I don't want to work on Shabbos. But it was difficult to think like this because most of the business you're doing on Shabbos. There was some Shabbos I used to sell $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on Shabbos. During the week, barely I can sell $100, $150. Now the contract, the lease I have, I was obligated 20 years lease. The owner, he warning me in the beginning, if you ever was thinking to leave this lease, I'm going to run after you to the rest of your life. I'm not going to let you go out from it. So I wrote to the Rebbe, told them, Rebbe, I decide to close my store on Shabbos. I would like to have a blessing. I should not get hurt. I'm getting a letter, and in the envelope I open, I see $18, and then it say, 1. מתחיל מקודם שקיעת החמה וגדול הזכות. 2. להפיץ את התורה מתוך שמחה. 3. לתת צדקה שמה, to give tzedakah at the money what he gave me. The next day I say, I'm going to go to the landlord, and I'm going to give him the lease, and the landlord was not there. I came back to my store. There is a guy walking to my store. He wants to buy the store, he's telling me. So I told him, go to the landlord. He's telling me, I was with the landlord. I said, what the landlord told you? He said, you're holding the lease, אתה מחזיק את החוזה. He took a checkbook and he wrote me a nice check. Just can tell you, with this check I bought a house and I started manufacturing. And I remember going to the Rebbe, and on Sunday I told the Rebbe, I got a miracle with the store. The Rebbe was laughing and he went like this on my mouth, like, don't talk about this.
אנחנו השקענו שלושתנו בביזנס לסגור בשבת. אנחנו צריכים ברכה והצלחה.
בשביל השבת ויום טוב.
ויום טוב.
Shabbat
ויום טוב סגור.
В первую очередь нужно соблюдать субботу. Так как это Бог указал, что Асерес Хадибес, когда он дал Тору, он начал с того, что каждый еврей до конца времен должен соблюдать субботу.
I'd started my practice on Nulatz Avenue, and things looked very bleak. It wasn't going anywhere. I remember having a friend. I happened to have mentioned to him that I was having some problems. This young man suggested that the Rebbe would be able to help me, and I made an appointment with the Rebbe. I started to tell him I wasn't doing well here in Brooklyn, and I was able to find a place in Bayside. I was going to be starting an office there. He says, do you work on Shabbos? And I said, yes, I do. And he says, now you're going to a new place. He says, you're moving. Perhaps you ought to think about not working on Shabbos. It became known that Dr. Walensky doesn't work on Saturday. And it was unheard of. Dr. Walensky goes to a shul. I was very successful financially, very successful. Even in the way I lived my life, I felt more satisfied, more at ease, very satisfied with being Jewish.
Oh, wow, look at that. Very powerful stories over there. A miracle story. Someone says he's going to close for Shabbos. A miracle happens. He gets this big check. And we saw the Rebbe, you may have noticed, the Rebbe was speaking in Russian to one of those individuals, advising them to close their stores for Shabbos. And the test is tremendous. I always love to share this story. Out here in Woodfield Mall, there used to be, they've since moved on, these Israeli backpackers. We love them, right? After the army, they go to India, they go all over the world, and they tour. Another thing they like to do is come to the United States and work in the mall selling Dead Sea products. So in Woodfield Mall a couple years ago, there were two brothers, which they owned a store and a kiosk in different parts of the mall, and they're not very religious, but they said on Shabbos we don't work. The problem is that their lease with the mall, their agreement with the mall is, please, if you have any connections to Woodfield Mall, don't tell them. I guess they're already gone. It doesn't matter. They since moved on to other businesses. The lease, the Woodfield Mall, they need to have every store open. If you come to the mall, half the stores are closed because the owner's on vacation. They went to Bermuda for a couple of weeks. That's not good for business for the mall. So the rule is, you rent a store, it has to be open whenever the mall is open. The kiosk can be closed whenever you want. The stores have to be open. So what do? So we're not coming to work on Shabbos. So they hired a school teacher to sit in the store for the duration of Shabbos. And she had a lot of paperwork to do, a lot of tests to grade and prep work. And she sat there for the whole Shabbos. Anytime a customer came in, say, oh, we're on break, we're on lunch break, come back, another day or something like that. And these two brothers told me that when they started doing that, they didn't lose any money. Their bottom line always somehow miraculously came out to be okay. And they're doing very well, and they're doing just fine. And like I said, they've since moved on. They've gone into other businesses. So the second piece of advice, how to bring spirituality into the workplace, is number one, have faith and trust in God. Number two, closing our business for Shabbos. And a third piece of advice is take time off for the study of Torah. We take a look in our textbook on page number 19, text number 9. The Rebbe says as follows: a business person should dedicate a portion of their time each day to Torah study. Although this eats into the time that is usually dedicated to work, not only will this study not detract from their overall success, but to the contrary, Torah study clears and refines the mind to be able to make better business decisions with greater clarity and efficiency. It calms the spirit, leading to greater success in business and greater happiness in life. This phenomenon is expressed clearly in the Torah itself. Hashem promises us that if you will go on my way and fulfill my commandments, I'll provide rain in its optimal time. When we dedicate time for Torah study, we are guaranteed divine blessings for success in a way that is optimal without stress or worry. So if we take off time from work and study Torah, it's not just good spiritually, but it's also good for the bottom line. It gives us the ease, the peace of mind to be able to make better business decisions. So every businessman should have time on their calendar that's marked off for studying Torah. So you get a phone call and somebody says, oh, I want to have a meeting at 11:30. Say, sorry, 11:30 is booked, because it's fixed. It's set on your calendar that every day from 11:30 to 11:40, you have a podcast that you're listening to, or a book that you're studying. And you have that marked in your calendar. You have that set in stone, set in place. That brings holiness into the workplace, not just into your home, not just into the synagogue, but it brings it into the workplace. And finally, the fourth piece of advice on how to bring spirituality into material workplace in your career is through through giving charity. When you set aside, as the Torah tells us, at least 1/10 of net profits for charity, you become a partner with Hashem, become a partner with God. Let's do one more text on page number 20, text number 10. So again, another English letter from the Rebbe, where he writes to the individual that I hope that from now on you will realize more fully and confidently that God is your partner in the business. By virtue of the tzedakah, the charity stake in it. And of course, the larger the share of the tzedakah, the larger the share of the partnership. So you can go boldly ahead on a broader front. I hope to hear good news from you. The person had, a question of business. Should he go ahead with a deal or something? The Rebbe said, God's your partner. If you are setting aside 10% of your net profit to charity, then you have another partner in the deal, and you have tremendous blessings and success that's going to come your way. Now, there was a big lawyer in Australia, non-Jewish lawyer. I think he's still alive. I read this in a book, and he had a partner who was not just Jewish, but also a chassid, a follower of the Rebbe. He had a beard, and he was also a lawyer. And they did some work together. And this other guy was a macho lawyer, one of those guys which is like, you can't even get them, and they charge $1 million an hour. And this Chabad lawyer they worked together on different cases, but he was like afraid of this big guy. He was like a big name out there. He represented, all the high profile cases. And one time, I have the names. I have the names of the person telling the story. I just don't remember it offhand. And one time, this big macho lawyer tells his Jewish Chabad friend, he says, "Listen, I need some advice on a personal matter." He was going through some difficult areas of his life. And he said, "What should I do?" The Chabad lawyer said, "Listen, why don't you write a letter to the Rebbe? Ask the Rebbe what to do. I don't know what to do. It's a difficult situation." So he wrote a letter to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe's response was that you should place a charity box in your home, and don't just have it hanging around, install it in your home. And that will change and transform the whole atmosphere of your home. Because the idea of giving charity is not only how much a person gives, but it's also that it transforms you into becoming a giver. And when you give charity every day, we have a little bowl with coins, pennies or nickels, and sometimes we forget, but we try to give charity every single day, except for Shabbos and the holidays. And because that act of constantly giving transforms your personality into being a giver, and you become a partner with God. So the Chabad lawyer tells this big macho lawyer, he says, "Listen, the Rebbe's advice was, put a charity box." And this Chabad lawyer, he didn't know if this other non-Jewish lawyer is going to really understand the importance of giving and charity the way the Rebbe had in mind, that it should be installed in the home, the charity box should be installed. And he said, "This is your answer," and that was that. A few months later, they're talking, and the Chabad lawyer says, "By the way, did you ever install a charity box?" He said, "What do you think? I'm not going to listen to the Rebbe? Well, the Rebbe told me, of course. I hired a craftsman. They came in right at the entrance of my home, attached to the walls, this big, beautiful charity box. That's the first thing you see when you enter my home." That's what this big lawyer said, because it transforms your entire home. Most people don't carry, most people I know don't carry a lot of cash with them. So again, it's not only about the amount of charity, it's about constantly giving charity, which transforms you as a person and your home, your atmosphere, into an atmosphere of holiness, of giving, of trying to make a difference for others. So just by having a charity box in your office, or if you're at home, a charity box on your desk, it constantly reminds you that everything you're doing is a partnership with God. You're here to change the world, to transform the world, and make this world a better place. Let's hear directly from the Rebbe as he advises different people about charity.
My business has been very bad. And I hope to God you can give me a brachas.
You put a tzedakah push in your business, and to arrange to have at least 10% given for the net income of the business to tzedakah, to charity.
Thank you very much.
God will much bless you. Have good news. That goes in the tzedakah push in the business.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
אני דור 11 בישראל. אני פיתחתי נושא חדש שמאוד חשוב לי לשלמות המשפחה ולהצלחה של המשפחה. אני מבקש את ברכתך. ההמצאה היא המצאה מאוד חשובה ויחידה בעולם.
באיזה שטח?
בשטח האלקטרוניקה. אחסון של מידע מחשבים דרך הטלפון. זו ההמצאה היחידה בעולם.
ויהי בהצלחה רבה בשורות טובות. צריך להבטיח להשם שתיתן צדקה 10% מהרווח הנקי. זה ברכה והצלחה. הצלחה רבה. $1 מייסטר. sein Bedienung, sein Meister.
So gehen bedienung auf dem Cent?
Nein, die Parkett, die wird mäßig sein, soll sein nicht Bedienung auf Kaufmann mit $1 mehr.
Doch mehr wie Meister.
Das ist
The Rebbe said, actually, by the way, the person didn't understand at first. don't be too particular to give exactly 10%. There are times the Rebbe advises people give 12%. You don't want to make any mistakes. But the idea is that when a person gives charity, they're affirming that they're bringing Hashem, they're bringing God into their work as a business partner in their work. So to give a recap, to sum everything up, that we discussed in the last hour and a half, there are so many stories, but just to recap the core ideas, and to give us a glimpse into the Jewish perspective and the Judaism's worldview, is that number one, work, not to be a broken record, work is a holy endeavor, and it gives us the platform to transform the world into a holier place. Number two, why is work holy? It gives us a chance to interact with others, to have a positive influence on them. And number three, it gives us the opportunity to partner with Hashem and to give tzedakah. So this transforms, because we have the why, work is a good thing, transforms how we work. We have trust and faith in Hashem, and that tells us we no longer need to work on Shabbos. We have set times to study Torah, and we bring Hashem in again as a partner in giving charity. So now it's no wonder if you remember that original exchange the Rebbe had with that other rabbi who said, "Oh, I'm afraid of affluence and wealth. It's going to be a big test." The Rebbe said, "No, the opportunity is too great. Of course, wealth it's a test. We know many people that win the lottery and they go broke. They don't do they get into fights with their family. Of course, there's a test involved with wealth, but the opportunity is so great to do so much good that it's something we have to grab onto." So what's a practical takeaway from this hour and a half? We have some great ideas. So I want to give a couple of recommendations, and I encourage everyone to just take a few moments to think to yourself of anything that you heard, any of the stories, any of the videos you've seen, or any of the ideas we discussed in the last hour and a half. You can think to yourself, what's something that I want to implement in my life? And if you write it down, there's a very, very high chance that you'll actually do it. But I'm going to give a couple of suggestions, but feel free, to take a few moments to yourself when the class is finished to think of something that you want to implement in your life. So number one, I'd like to recommend, take 5 minutes, set in your calendar every day to study Torah. No matter what you're doing, no matter how busy you are, put in your calendar, I have a meeting. Someone calls you, can I meet with you for coffee at 11? I'm sorry, I'm only available 11:10. 11 to 11:10, I've got a meeting. Okay, well, what's the meeting? You've got your podcast, you've got your book that you're studying. It can even be 5 minutes, but fix the time, block it out in your calendar, and that can be your 5 or 10 minutes of connecting with Hashem, bringing spirituality into your day-to-day life. If you're in the business world and you're interacting with a client, something that others have tried and have done is that if something goes very well, tell your client, I'm going to give charity in your honor, and I want to give it to your preferred charity, right? So you can ask them, ask a client, do you have a charity that you like to support? And I'm going to give a donation in your honor to that charity. And the third idea is put a tzedakah box on your desk, in your home, in your office. So again, it's not only about the amount, but it's about that reminder that everything we're doing is partnering with God to make this world a better place for all. So that is a recap of our lesson tonight. And I want to thank everyone for joining and sticking through all the way to the end. The next week, we're going to clock out of the office. We're finished with the business world, and we're going to head home. And home and family is very central to our lives, not just as human beings, but also from a Jewish perspective. And we live in a very, honestly, in a fractured society. So we're going to talk about enhancing, the family unit, and why the family unit is so important. We're going to deal with family relationships, harmony, and how to make the home a holier place with the right priorities and perspectives. That's coming up next week. And I'm not running anywhere, so I'm here for any questions or comments. Feel free to speak up. Feel free, hopefully, you can turn off the mic. You can unmute your mics. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. So I do want to mention in the student book on page 21, there's some additional readings. That's some homework for you to do. So you can take a look at those. Again, different correspondences from the Rebbe. There's something in the Rebbe's handwriting on should be on page 22, I think. There's like a picture of a postscript the Rebbe wrote, which I just want to bring to your attention, which kind of sums everything up. The Rebbe wrote to this person, don't worry so much about business. More bitachon, which means more trust in God, brings more livelihood. Don't worry, more trust, you'll be okay. So, in any event, I've done enough talking. There's reading material for everyone to catch up on. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm looking forward to next week, 7:30 p.m. God willing.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Great class, like always.
Thank you. A little more relatable than Kabbalah or different?
I have enjoyed every single class. This, I think, I can apply very directly to my life.
Okay, great. Every course has its thing. The Kabbalah course is very deep, which is intellectually stimulating. That was a great journey, but this is very practical. So, I'm happy to hear that. All right, Laila Tov. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Next
Thank
week.
you.
Sure.